Hello, welcome to this talk about planning at Queen's. My name is Dr. Laura Michael. I'm a lecturer in the planning department in the School of Natural Built Environment. So I want to talk to you a bit about our courses. You may not have heard of planning before, so this will give you a bit of background as to what it is as a subject, why it's an exciting subject to study. I'll give you some information on the courses that we offer here at Queen's in planning, and just chat a bit about what the benefits of studying planning at Queen's are, and everything that the course involves. So a lot of people do ask us, well, what is planning all about? Obviously we know the word planning, but the subject of planning or the professional practice of planning is something that people may not be just as familiar with. For many of us, we often can think of it as applied geography, so putting our understanding of the world around us into practice. And it's very much focused on the built environment, but also the rural environment and the natural environment as well, and more so. So really, it's thinking about the spatial context that we live in, thinking about development of buildings, the things that we need to live, what goes where, when do we build it, how do we build it, who are we building it for, and why are we doing it? And planners have to think about all of that in the towns and the cities and the villages and rural areas that we live in, and think about how they're organised and how they work in a way that is good for people. So creating good places and changing the places that we live in for the better. And really the course that we run in planning gives you the skills to influence and produce this positive future and sustainable environments that we live in. So if you think about it, people need somewhere to live, they need somewhere to work, they need somewhere to go to school, places to spend their free time. We need access to open spaces, green spaces, and places that we can live happy and healthy lives. So planners have to think about all of that. They have to think about the various needs of individuals in society, and how it all works together in a built form or built structure, and how that's done safely and sustainably. So really, when you start to think about it, planners really have a vital role to play in the society, the economy, how jobs are impacted from where we live, how people travel and get around, and the culture and the environment that we live in as well, and more so having an awareness on sustainability and climate change. And these are the things that affect our everyday lives, and planners really touch upon all of those things in practice. So it's a very contemporary, it's a very relevant course and discipline to study. So it could be initially things like our energy sources. How do we plan and develop for cleaner energy or renewable energy? So it's shifting away from a carbon-dependent fossil fuel energy source, moving towards cleaner green energies like wind turbines, solar power, hydroelectric power. But there are all kinds of issues around developing this kind of energy as well. We have lots of different decisions that we need to make. For example, putting wind turbines in the countryside, how does that impact on perhaps an area of outstanding natural beauty? There's always people that are opposed to building turbines in those areas. So how do we think about that? How do we manage it? How do we give guidance for those things? So planners have to think about all of the various factors that would influence this. Another one is, how do we live? What kind of houses do we want to live in? So you might be more familiar with the kind of image on the right. This is taken from a large suburban development in America, where you have similar houses spread out across greenfield sites and what we call urban sprawl. And we are eating into our natural landscapes as well. It's a largely unsustainable style or urban design form for housing or residential purposes. And it also promotes a reliance on the private car, which I'll get onto as well. So those are lots of unsustainable features of this type of urban development or suburban development that planners are now moving away from, but it's still quite popular with lots of people. Everybody likes their own space. But if you look to this image on the left, this is a sustainable housing development called Bedside in England. And you'll see there that there's solar panels on the houses. The houses are slightly higher density, so there's a lot higher population in a smaller land size. There's still gardens, they're probably a little bit smaller, but the houses are also orientated in such a way that they harness the energy of the sun. So they face the sun in the garden, so you're maximizing the heat, but also preserving the heat whenever it's colder. So these are known as carbon net zero urban developments. They also have car rental schemes, for example. Instead of promoting car ownership, they're well linked up to infrastructure and public transport routes. So it's a much more sustainable urban form. And planners have to be aware of that and think about how we live. What are the ways that we like to get around? What are our needs? And think about how we promote that sustainably for housing development in the future. So that's just another area that planners think about. And I've mentioned already about how we get around. And you might be more familiar with a bit of this over the last years, that people are moving towards active travel and promoting active travel for happier, healthier lifestyles, and also the impacts upon air quality. So you may be familiar with this sort of traffic jam, congested type image in the town and city where you live. And planners are very much focused on shifting us towards more sustainable modes of transport. It could be public transport, it could be active travel, which is walking or cycling, and moving towards these more innovative styles. This image to the left is known as the Snake, which is in Copenhagen, which identified a really important route that people needed to get to across the city. And they decided to promote that connection for cyclists and for those walking as well. So it's a really amazing piece of infrastructure. And planners are very much focused on that. They often have to think about, how do we connect the things that we need to get to, our place of work from the place that we live, or the school, or other potential landmarks or things that are important to us. So we're shifting away from this car-dependent society into a happier and healthier way of travelling around. So I've given you a bit of a taster of what planning is all about. Really, planning is about connecting all of these various features of our society and thinking about them in a holistic manner, in a sustainable manner, and developing the towns and cities that we live in for years to come. So the two courses then that you can do at Queen's that will give you the skills to work towards some of those goals that I've mentioned are these two courses. The first one is the BSc in Planning, Environment and Development, and that's a 3-year course. And you have an opportunity for a 12-week work placement within that. Moving on from that, you have the opportunity to do our Masters in City Planning and Design, or you can move into another specialism within Queen's or another university. And the grade requirements for that are A and 2Bs at A level and GCSE Maths. So we don't have any subject specifics for A level. It is very popular with those who've studied geography, but as a planning student myself, I didn't do geography. So you are by no ways limited if you haven't done or studied geography up to now. So that's the requirements. The other option then is the M-Plan in European Planning, which is a 4-year course. And that really runs alongside the 3-year programme, the BSc programme, for the first 2 years, studying the same modules. And then in the 3rd year, there's some divergence and you study some slightly different modules. And then your 4th year includes 1 year of study in Europe with one of our partner universities. So some of the opportunities there are several universities in the Netherlands, which is seen to be very much at the forefront of planning practice. We have universities in Stockholm where you can study, and in France as well. So there are lots of opportunities, and they're taught in English for all of those courses. And you don't pay any fees for that 4th year, which is important to remember as well. And the grade requirements for that course then, the M-Plan, is 2 A's and a B and GCSE Maths. So again, no subject specifics. So those are the two options that you have. What's really important to note as well with our courses is that we have professional accreditation from the Royal Town Planning Institute and the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors. And what that really means is when you complete our course, you're certified to begin working towards becoming a chartered planner. So just like you would become a chartered accountant or a chartered architect, you can become a chartered planner as well. And basically the Royal Town Planning Institute and the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors have given our course the green light to say, yes, anyone who graduates from these courses can move on towards becoming chartered. So it is really important that you look out for that whenever you're looking at other courses in planning, that accreditation is there. So we're really pleased and proud to have that accreditation from the RTPI and the RICS. Some of the modules that you might study, just to give you a taster, there's quite a lot of variety across our modules on the courses. So in 1st year, for example, we look at things like planning health and well-being. So how do we plan for healthy cities? We also look at planning skills and GIS, so mapping, and how do we gain and analyse data of our towns and cities. Design principles in the built environment, so urban design, really that's an introduction to. looking at the history of planned settlement. How have we come to live the way that we have? Looking at the policy and the legal introductions to planning. So how does planning sit within governance and government structures? Looking at the policy context we have for planning today. And contemporary issues in urban and rural planning. So being introduced really to planning and master planning and town planning strategies there, and the key issues that we need to be aware of as planners. Moving into level 2, we look at things like planning theory, planning and climate change. So we're delighted to have a dedicated module that looks at climate change and really understands the climate emergency that we're in at this time, and how planning is very much at the centre of making change in society towards tackling the climate emergency and mitigating and adapting to climate change. We look at things like theory and practice of development management. So that's really what you may have heard of planning up to now as planning permission. How do we make assessment for planning permission? How do we grant or refuse planning? And what are the factors that planners need to understand and to be aware of whenever they're giving planning responses or decisions? Theory and practice of spatial planning policy, again, an introduction to master planning and developing policy guidance for town and city development. Economy and space, understanding the economic impacts of planning, how it plays out in our built environments. Site layout and design, again, is a consolidation of urban design practice. Level 3, then you take a field trip in an international city. This year we went to Barcelona, but we've been to other places like Berlin and Krakow as well. So you'll do a study there in another city, and our students really enjoy that. Comparative planning studies, your own independent research dissertation project. You have an option then between planning and conservation, or infrastructure and transportation planning. And then finally, legal studies and planning and themes in spatial planning. So there's quite a spread of modules there from the BSc programme and MPlan programme there that show just the variety and interesting subjects that we're covering within planning across the 3 years or 4 years that you're with us. In terms of teaching, what does it really look like whenever you come to study planning at Queen's? Well, a lot of our work is based on a project, so a lot of it will be subject specific. We'll take a look at a particular area and we'll come up with bespoke and focused solutions in terms of planning and development. We do have a lot of lectures as well, but they're often followed up by seminars, by debates and discussions, by role plays, and a lot of field trips as well. So we're often out and about. And that's what's really nice about the course, that we're always taking a look at the world around us. We focus a lot of the work individually and in groups as well. So you will be working in teams, and you can see a couple of pictures below here. So there's one of our students in our planning studio working together, focusing on various projects. We also have things like technical skills workshops, so giving you access to various training and the use of certain softwares and computer skills that are really essential now. So I've already mentioned GIS, but we also give you skills in things like AutoCAD, SPSS, which is a data analysis program, the use of Adobe Creative Suite, so things like Photoshop, InDesign, and Illustrator, and Google SketchUp, which is a 3D modeling software. So we give you all of those technical skills as well within the course. These are just a few pictures, as I've mentioned, of our students on international field trips, visiting all kinds of sites. This is a visit on the bottom right here to recycling and waste management facility. So our students really need to have a grasp and understanding of all kinds of subject areas in order to become effective planners. And we try to give you as much exposure to that as we can. In terms of what you come away with, it's really important to think about this when you're deciding on the course that you are going to apply for your future career, is really to think about, what do I come away with? What are my employability skills? What have I got to offer? And in planning, we think that this course is really useful because it gives you the key technical skills that you need to become a planner, but lots of really general skills that are important in any career or any walk of life. So in terms of professional skills related to planning, some of the skills you'll come away with is an understanding of urban design analysis and theory, understanding how to interact with people, so community engagement, you'll have skills developed in that, project management, plan making, assessing development, negotiating and mediating development, and understanding some of the nuances within planning approvals. And the employability rate from coming away from one of our courses is 90%. So we're really, really pleased with that. But in terms of the general skills that you come away with that can be transferred, it's really important to think about transferable skills as well. We really focus on high literacy and numeracy skills, effective communication. So all employers are looking for someone who can communicate. And we focus a lot of our assessment and development with you as a student on presentation skills, giving a presentation to a group, reporting back, or working within a team and communicating within the team as well. So those are some of the key areas we focus on. I've already mentioned specialised IT skills, but also general IT competency as well, and working within a team and coordinating a project. So all of that is so applicable to any kind of career that you would be interested in whenever you leave university. So what can you do with a planning degree? It may be a subject that you haven't really heard about before, but a degree in planning is really versatile. So it's obviously a vocational and professional degree that is accredited and can lead to a career as a professional planner. So you may choose to work within the local council, or within government, or you may work in a private consultancy as well. And it's really important to remember that doing a planning degree doesn't mean that you must become a planner. Planners come away with a broad set of skills that are really applicable to all kinds of careers. So a lot of our graduates will work either within planning or within all other kinds of sectors. So it could be environmental assessment, it could be community development, working with local people and improving their local environments. It could be economic regeneration, it could be transport, it could be surveying work. So you may go on to become a quantified surveyor, chartered surveyor. Many of our students have gone into retail, management, banking. Some have gone into primary teaching as well from completing a planning degree. Or you may go into further research, could be working within NGO organisations as well. So there are lots of job opportunities that emerge from planning. You are not fixed to a planning career by doing a planning degree. There's lots of options, but you also have that technical requirement and accreditation. If you do want to become a chartered planner, you can. So it's really, it's quite a nice balance of what you can get from a planning degree that you can't maybe always get from other degree programs that are more specific and specialised. So is it for you? I've talked a bit about some of the things that we focus on in planning and the modules that we cover, and maybe you're wondering whether or not something you would enjoy. I would say if it's for you, if you're interested maybe in geography or in other similar humanities and subjects really in the world around us. So if you're interested in the shaping of our environments around us, I would say that planning is a really relevant course for you. If you prefer something that's interesting, eclectic, that is current and contemporary and relevant, planning is really a versatile degree that will give you all of that. If you like variety in how you study and work, so if you like a lot of change, if you like things to be different, our students always comment on the fact that all of our modules are different. There's always something different happening in all of them. So it gives them plenty of variety while they're studying. So if you enjoy that kind of working environment, I would say this course is really of interest for you. If you've got an interest in buildings, architecture, cities, how they're developed, cities are such exciting places where there's so much happening, and you're really interested in the aesthetics of urban design and maybe an interest in design, you don't have to have, but if that's something that's of interest to you, if you've thought about architecture as a subject as well, planning is a really interesting variation on that, in that it gives the social application of architecture and urban design. So it's a really interesting course from that regard. If you're interested in the environment and sustainability, I would argue that planning is one of the best courses that you can do to understand the impacts of climate change, how we can mitigate and adapt to climate change, and how we can work towards more sustainable development in our towns and cities. Then I would say planning should be at the top of your list for thinking about those subject areas and those really urgent concerns for our planet. If you like thinking about things at various levels, so if you like thinking about things at a local level, at a national level, if you like thinking about government, how countries work together, we have a lot of focus at all of those levels. And if you like thinking about those big issues, then planning will be of interest to you. But ultimately, it is those big issues that really strive and motivate planners. So I would say if you're interested in creating a better future for everyone, thinking about the environment, protecting the environment, thinking about stimulating a better quality of life for people, thinking about the physical and social infrastructure and the towns and cities around us, how they look, how they work, and improving them and making a better life for society, then I would say planning is something that's really going to lead you into that. It's a very passionate subject area. The people who have become planners are often those who are really motivated about making change. So I think that that would really be some of the big indicators if this course is for you or not. In terms of why you would come to Queen's, then to do planning as well, well, Belfast has been voted one of the best UK cities to live in and to visit. And there's lots of things that are exciting about Belfast. A lot of 94% of our students, in fact, said that they were very happy to be studying here. It's the safest place to live in the UK. It's the cheapest place to live in the UK. It's the happiest. Northern Ireland is the happiest place in the UK. And I, for one, absolutely love to be living and working here. It's not a big city, Belfast, but there's enough to do. It's an exciting city and there's lots to see. And it's not far away. It's very accessible. So don't forget that when you're thinking about Queen's, whenever you're thinking about what city you're going to live in. Belfast is really an exciting place to live. So hopefully I've given you something to think about in terms of studying planning at Queen's, what it's like as a subject, and why you might want to come to Belfast as well. But if you do want to find out more, if you're still having questions, there are a few places that you can go and look. If you want to learn more about our school, so we're within the School of Natural and Built Environment, you can go to our school website, which is listed here. We have a Facebook page for the Natural and Built Environment as well, which you can check out. If you want to understand a bit more about planning as a profession, then I would really recommend that you go and visit the Royal Town Planning Institute website, rtpi.org.uk. And if you want to know more about us planning at Queen's, then I would really recommend, if you want to get a taste for what we are doing, what we're interested in, and the things that kind of motivate us and inspire us as a department, then I would really recommend that you follow us on Twitter. All of our staff are constantly tweeting things there about the research they're doing or what students are doing, and posting lots of different and interesting articles as well. So you can follow us there. Our handle is PlanQUB. So really hope to see you following along there. Drop us a line, send us a message, and we'd be only too happy to answer any of your questions. And hopefully if you've got any other questions, you'll be able to share them with us. Thank you so much for listening. I really hope that we'll see you on campus in planning next year. All the very best, and thanks very much.